We decided late last night to make an unplanned stop at Parrish Brewing Company.
Here we are, Billy's homemade boudin and cracklins. Chuck said they had 5,000 something reviews out of 4.7 on Google, which is pretty good. It smells fried. So here's the freezer section. Boudin and pistolets. Those look good. They got crawfish boudin. Ooh, boudin balls are huge.
After buying a few things to taste, we went back and bought a ton of food to bring home. It was absolutely fabulous. Our next stop is Parrish Brewing. This is a brewery that we've been to a number of times before because Chuck really likes their IPA beers. We were stopping today because they had a new released IPA that came out earlier while we were traveling, and it had to be picked up by like a few days ago. It's a long shot, but maybe somebody didn't pick their order up, so they'll have some extra beer that Chuck can score on this stop today. Our next stop today is Morgan City, Louisiana, to visit the Rig Museum. This is the only place in the world where the general public can walk aboard an authentic offshore drilling rig.
In the 1950s, a man came up that was working here in Morgan City, came up with the idea of a reusable, movable drilling rig. A rig they could use over and over again. And this is the rig that he built. So this is the first movable rig ever built for offshore, so it floats. So when you see the legs going into the water, they're sitting on top of a barge. So that barge has engine room and ballast tanks. But right now, the ballast tanks are filled with water, sinking the barge to the bottom of the river, same way it'd be sitting offshore. Drill you one well, pump the water out, the barge floats the surface, tow it to a new location, sink it, drill another well, float it, tow it, sink it, drill another well. Much faster than building the platforms. So this piece of equipment revolutionized the industry at the time. Everything that's out there today is fashioned after this rig, but now for much deeper water. This one with the short legs was limited to 40 feet of water depth that it could drill in. Now in 1954, when this went to work, that was deep water. Today we're in 12,000 feet of water depth.
Wow.
So we don't have legs going down 12,000 feet. The rigs now are always floating. That is a small unmanned satellite production platform. A little bigger than the RV.
Looks like you would fall out of bed when it got rough.
Mr. Charlie could accommodate a crew of 58. Once Mr. Charlie was on location, he was an independent island and nearly totally self-sufficient, with room to store drinking water, food, and supplies for the crew. He generated his own electricity, disposed of his own waste, and produced his own communication system, and contained enough fuel to accomplish all these tasks. He also maintained supplies and equipment to perform his job of drilling a well. He's also had to be prepared for any emergency with a complete firefighting system, blowout preventers, and medical supplies and equipment.
So it fit 4 people. You're not strapped in necessarily. You want to be able to get in and out very quickly, especially near the deck of the boat.
So you better hold on or you're a goner.
Yeah. There's another model of this basket that doesn't have the center post, so in those center posts, the basket's collapsible. So you don't want to be inside a collapsible basket, so you ride on the outside. For training, we would pick them up about 75 feet above water surface to put them on a barge. So we've had students that walk out, see that, and say, going home. Once you're offshore on some of these newer facilities, you may be at a height 100 feet taller than the top of our derrick, where the 73-year-old crane operator dropping you down on the boat with this breezy day-to-day with his baskets doing a pendulum number.
Oh my gosh.
And he or she is now aiming to hit the deck of the bouncing boat. It's cameras, arms and hands. So these arms and hands can do everything ours can do, but with much greater strength and in much deeper water. So the arms and hands are changeable depending on what job we're going to do. It will depend on what arm we want to use, what hand we want to use. So you see this one has an elbow, this one extends straight out. They both rotate like drills. That hand opens parallel, so parallel lets it grab rectangular objects really well. This one, round objects.
So what's it grabbing? Like?
Well, it depends on what job it's doing. It may be hooking up flanges.
Oh.
Now, it's not going to be what you'd see up here as a flange, where you have the plate with holes and studs and nuts. Instead, it's going to be an interlocking that'll go in and do a quarter turn, say, and lock. So it's got to make that turn. So it may, I mean, there's a lot of, I've been told by the guys that operate these that if you're good with it, you can cut and thread 3/8 copper tubing in 12,000 feet of water depth.
Really?
Oh my god.
So you're good.
That would be crazy.
So all these kids practicing with their video games.
Virgil, our volunteer tour guide, gave an excellent educational overview of the oil rig and the oil industry. We absolutely love this. Highly recommend it as a harvest host stop. But we were starving, so we left after a few-hour tour, which was longer than normal, and headed to Boudreaux and Thibodeau's. And we'd been craving it ever since we had gone there before. And the food turned out to be just as great as we had remembered before. Absolutely fabulous. We had hoped to stay at the same Boondockers welcome spot as we had stayed at last time. However, the guy informed us that the city council was stopping him from having Boondocker welcome people over. And I don't really know how they could do that because that's his home private property and they're telling him what he can and can't do. Tuck looked on iOverlander and found another spot.
Alright, so we made it to our boondocking spot for tonight, and the river's here, and they have like this huge levee, like to have the walkway or the biking path. And I was telling Chuck, do you think that river ever gets up this high? And he said it must have because they wouldn't have built it like that unless it did. And then there's this thing over here called Oak Plantation. Look at these trees. The branches are just lying on the ground.
Our boondocking spot near Oak Plantation turned out to be pretty quiet for the night. Today we're driving to the Cypress Tap House, a harvest host in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. And we have plenty of time to get there, so we decided we were going to take the Coastal Highway. It turned out to be the annual Cruising the Mississippi Coast Car Festival, which is billed as America's largest block party. And so we were in for a treat today as we saw lots of old cars as we drove along the coastal highway and as we stopped at the cities along the way. Our first stop was in Bay St. Louis, which we've never been to before, and there we wanted to grab some lunch. The food was just okay. It's really not a place I would ever go back to, but it did have a nice view and it was kind of the center of where all the car show activity was. So it turned out to be an okay stop.
Look how long this car is. It's like crazy.
No, he's trying to get 15,000.
Is that a Ferrari?
Huh?
Is that an old Ferrari?
No, it's an old Mitsubishi Stereo, I
Oh,
believe.
that looks cool. Uncle Mars, this one's for you. Chuck said this is another Chevelle. Oh, look at the dice on the shifting bar. That's so cool. Scooby-Doo, where are you? Mystery machine. We're not even sure where we are. We're just cruising the coast. It says expect delays because it's just insanity and chaos. Old cars everywhere. This goes on for a week. You'll see the van is back there in the back through the gate. And we made it to the Cypress Tap House and the Fort Bayou Brewing Company. It's a nice area where you can like play games in here. She said normally they have bingo tonight, but they called it off because of the cruising the coast. This looks so good. This is my pot roast quesadilla with dipping sauce and french fries.
The food here was absolutely fabulous. They also have a catering business and I can certainly understand why. And the drinks were also very good. The next day we drove to Gulf Breeze, Florida, which is Tuck's hometown. Along the way we stopped for lunch at Floribama to eat and listen to some music. And then we arrived to visit Chuck's family in Gulf Breeze. Saturday was his high school reunion, so we went to that, which was a lot of fun. And then on day 69, on Sunday, we arrived home. We had accumulated a large bounty of goods during our 69-day journey. Of course, hot sauces and lots of IPAs are Chuck's passion. So we had a lot of those, even though I didn't make a picture of everything, and lots of good Cajun food. How much did this epic 69-day adventure cost us? Part 1 was from St. Petersburg, Florida, all the way to Valley of the Fire State Park. And Part 2 was from Valley of the Fire State Park, all the way back to St. Petersburg, Florida. I keep a spreadsheet, and I'll share with you now some of the numbers. We spent, in 69 days, $2,545 on restaurants, $3,448 on fuel, $1,190 on food at various grocery stores. Entertainment, we spent $610. So I was surprised. I thought we would spend a lot more on entertainment, but a lot of what we did was free. Drinks, we spent $926 at various harvest hosts and breweries along the way, as well as liquor stores and bringing back some liquor as well. Other was just miscellaneous items that we bought. We spent $447. Lodging, we spent $174. I thought that was a phenomenal number. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Laundry, we spent $91. Other, which is oil and def, we spent about $30. And we had to buy a heater at Ace because our cheap Chinese heater would not take the high altitudes. And so the little electric heater got us through the hard times. So what does all of this total? Let's come over here. And you will see that the grand total of our trip for 69 days, doing all these major national parks in Utah, Grand Canyon, Colorado, both sides of New Mexico, the north and the south, was $9,518. For 69 days, that gives us an average of about $138 per day. For 69 days, we ate out 24 lunches and 23 dinners for 47 meals of 138 meals, so we ate out about a third of the time. For lodging, we had 69 nights, and we paid for 5 nights at campsites. 2 of those are in Big Bend State Park, where you have to pay for a campsite. One was at an RV park the night that our alternator had messed up because we needed to be able to charge. We went into Albuquerque the next day, or actually turned into the next few days in order to get that fixed. And one at a new park in Utah, which I don't know what park that was. And then one at a hotel in Sedona, because there is no really good boondocking in Sedona, and we were going to the Mexican restaurant to have margaritas, and we didn't want to have to drive. So we took the shuttle and Uber and stayed and got a hotel room. We stayed at 10 harvest hosts and 2 boondocker welcome, of which we stayed 3 nights because we had 2 nights at the same place at Doggy Disneyland. This was a 93% of the time meant that we had free lodging, which is pretty impressive. I can move this over. I did not include in these numbers where we rebuilt our alternator. That cost us $687. We had to buy a new alternator, which was $1,543. Chuck's phone tore up, so we had to put a down payment on a new phone and then go on monthly payments. And we bought a bunch of stuff at REI. I didn't include those because those really are more useful on other trips as well. So overall, we felt like we really got our money's worth, and we loved the van. So next up, stay tuned. In June 3rd, we leave for our Alaska adventure from Florida to Alaska and back.